Hey, good evening and welcome to DJNTV. Tonight, it is Monday night, and tonight is one of our interviews in this series that we're going and finding out a lot about some of the different people you have probably seen online, and we're just going to kind of find out a little bit more about those. And before I introduce Kevin tonight, tonight's show and all of our interview shows are sponsored by DJ Event Planner, djeventplanner.com. The link is in the description of this video down below. You just click on that, check it out. It's a service that will allow you to customize some things on your website and be able to communicate pre-booking, during the booking process, and then during the planning process. It's a great tool for a lot of us out there. djeventplanner.com. Okay, Kevin, we got the business out of the way. Good evening, and thanks for being with me tonight.
Good evening to you as well, and everybody that's listening. It's a pleasure to finally meet you and do this interview. Looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We're going to be covering a lot of different, a lot of ground tonight, kind of focusing on some of the things that you and your son do with your DJ business. But before we get into too much of that, I want you to just kind of give us a little elevator speech of kind of the things that you are that you guys do these days, and then we're going to kind of go back and kind of build that puzzle and get back to what you guys are doing. So what type of events and where do you perform and what's your kind of focus?
Well, I live in a small town called Rock Hill, South Carolina. I cover the entire state. The largest city that I work around is Charlotte, North Carolina. But I normally go to the outskirts. I don't do a whole lot of events in downtown or what we call uptown Charlotte, because actually the downtown is higher than everyone else, and so we call it uptown Charlotte. Anyway, but I do mainly weddings. I do a lot of corporate and convention conferences as well.
Nice.
And then in the last 4 years, we started doing giving back to the community in a way to help the schools. My son was a sophomore in high school, and so we do. Well, he actually DJs for football, both volleyball, girl and boy volleyball, both basketball teams. Last year we did a little bit of baseball. This year we are doing a lot of baseball. And then we're trying to get in and help the softball team as well. And then I announce all of those sports except for football. And then 2 years ago, if you've seen in the Big South tournaments or if you heard about Winthrop University, it is here in Rock Hill as well. And Braden, who is my son, is the DJ for the Lady Eagles basketball team.
Nice. And we'll kind of dig more into the performing for the schools and doing different things with the school from that standpoint in a little bit, because that's really what we want to focus on a little bit later. But Kevin, this is usually the time when I go all the way back into the little guy years type of a situation. But your start to music, the story kind of picks up in about the mid '90s. Kind of take us to your first experience, first experience, I guess, with the DJ world, which would almost be with the music beyond being just a casual radio listener.
So in '94, and well, I'll go back. When I graduated high school, I served in the Army for 3 years, and I came home in '92. My great-great-grandfather designed 80% of the roads here in Rock Hill. So I came back home to be here with my grandfather and my grandmother. And at 21, 22, I was in the clubs. I met one of the DJs that were in the clubs, and he became a friend of mine.
Sure.
And in '94, at the height of CDs and in that realm of the world, I didn't even own one. And he called me one night. I had been helping him set up like events, big events when he needed some assistance. And that's all that I was doing. And then he called me one evening and said, "Hey, I've double booked myself. Are you going out?" It was a Friday night. And I said, "Sure. Yeah, I'm going out. I go out every Friday night."
Sure.
He says, "Well, can you come help me set up? And I have a job proposal to you because I double booked myself." And I was so green, didn't know what that really was. And I said, "Well, great. That means you have 2 events." He said, "Yeah, but they're at the same time and it's 2 different locations."
Yep.
And I went, "Well, then you're screwed." And he said, nope, that's where you come in. I said, you're really screwed because I know nothing about it. That's when he discovered I didn't own a CD. And so that first night, I went and helped him set up. He gave me a 5 minute quick lesson on here's back in the day we used single drawer CD players. So he said top one is channel one, bottom one is channel two. This is
Yes.
your mixer, and you need to talk on the microphone. And I went, oh no, I've never held a microphone in my life, and I've never done any public speaking.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes training, and now here I am off with 50 CDs to go do this event at a club, and welcome my world. And I
Wow.
told him that night, I said, if this is a success, great, you get the credit. If it's a failure, you get the blame. And we
So,
talked on Monday.
yep.
We talked on Monday. We had a gentleman's agreement to work with each other for 5 years. I couldn't quit. He really couldn't fire me unless if I did something stupid,
Major.
really.
Yep.
Um, and 4.5 years later, in '98, he came to me and said, "I'm out of it. I'm done." And I said, "You're not done. You may be retiring. You may be pausing for a moment, but this is in your blood. You will always be an entertainer and in this industry." He says, "No, I'm seriously. I'm done. I'm getting out of it." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Go open your own company. You've made a name for yourself here in Rock Hill." So in '98, I opened up Elite Entertainment. November was my first show.
Hmm.
And then I met my wife in December of '99. In April of 2000, I came home one afternoon and said, my boss at my day job wants to hire a manager, wants to reduce my role and this, that, and the other. And I'm really thinking about quitting my day job and running my company.
Hmm.
And as my girlfriend, she said, I'll support you in any way you want to. I know this is what you want to do. So you make your decision. I'm here. And so in April of 2000, I chose to quit my day job and go full time. And so I am now currently the longest operating DJ in York County and the only full time DJ in York County.
So let's bounce back. I've got questions about the whole process. As I'm envisioning that 1994 in that early time frame, did you ever do I mean, all of it, we built our collections on the Columbia House clubs, where you could buy 3 CDs and, you get 10 free or something stupid like that. Did you ever do any of that? Or is that one of those things that by the time you got into it, those things were pretty much all gone?
No, they were still there,
Okay.
but I never joined. I never got the CDs. I
Yeah.
don't own a Columbia House
You
CD.
never got those.
I don't have a membership.
Oh, you never had the enjoyment or the excitement of getting the one in the mail, and it's like, yay! So, how did you build that library then? Once you got to the point of those first 3.5, 4 years there, as you were getting ready?
So literally, we would go. The guy's name is Dwayne. He's at the beach. He's never retired. He's now at Myrtle Beach doing events and running several different things in the entertainment world. But
Mhm.
I would literally go to the record store on practically every Tuesday and look out because back in the day, Tuesday was when the albums came out.
Yep.
So I would go Tuesday or Wednesday to the record store. I currently still have every single CD that I have ever purchased
Mm-hmm.
in 3, 4 cases sitting in my closet. I could bring them out,
Okay, so
and then
what were some of those early, the first CDs you purchased? Because that generally some of those first ones we bought for a reason, specifically more that was something we liked or it was something that you had to have. Do you remember any of those first ones?
I bought a lot of the MTV volumes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Back in the day, Ultramix was a great resource for remixes and stuff like that. The Dance USA CD collection.
Yeah.
And then I just would pick. I'm a country listener at heart when I do all my other projects, but I also love R&B, funk, even lean to the old school rap.
Yes.
So I was buying a lot of that stuff because I knew that's what would get it on the dance floor.
Yeah.
I was always in the club.
Okay. So you.
Huge Michael Jackson fan. When Prince was around, uh, believe it or not, I saw Prince twice in
Nice.
the Hornets training center, which was the basketball team at the time. But Prince would come in and do free concerts before or after the main concert that he would do in the cities.
Hmm.
And if you were lucky enough to hear about him, then you could go, and the first 1,500 people that got in was there. I saw them twice and never paid for a ticket.
Wow.
So I'm privileged to know that. I love Michael Walter talking about Prince and his love for that. And I'm sure he has experienced that many a time. I wish that I would have seen him in a live concert because those concerts were just him. As everybody knows, Prince played every instrument. So to see that side of him versus in a big, with the lights and everything that he did, it was different. But I wasn't a major Prince fan. I was more of an MJ fan. So I bought everything. I've got a box set that most people don't have of Michael Jackson.
Sure.
And so that's where I built it. And then in 96, 97, I met another DJ that was doing, we have what's called beach music down here in the Carolinas.
Yes.
It's a state dance. There's a lot of beach bands that go up and down the East Coast. And I was hanging out at a beach music club and met the DJ there. And I became friends, and he told me about Top Hits USA.
Oh, yeah.
So I joined Top Hits USA in 97, 98. And I'm still a current member of their services and all that. So that's even now, that's how I get my music even now.
And when they would come out with those recurrent discs every other month they came out with one of those?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. They had the T series, which was weekly.
Yeah.
And then you would get the recurrent ones every other month. Now you get all of the downloads. Like T series was only a certain group of music. But now I get jazz, Christian, country, adult, contemporary. I get the urban remixes. I get their entire collection for the same amount of price that I was paying back in 98.
We joined in the mid 90s also with Top Hits USA, and so those recurrents, we had those from the beginning of when we started, and at that time whenever we'd add a new DJ system in the early 2000s, I could just give them a call and say, hey, can we get all the recurrents all the way back to when I first started? And of course at that time they were like, yeah, sure. Oh my gosh, was that such an easy way? You basically got the recurrents from the mid 90s from the top 40 or the CHR, and then you got the country ones, and that was set for like 90% of the music we needed type of thing. The only thing we needed really was maybe the electric slide or the twist or some old things that ended up coming out in the Mobile Beat top 200 sets that came out later.
Yeah. Absolutely. So so that's kind of where my music is now, and I just got a new CD, and now it's a DVD because they do free downloads and you get everything that they produce. So which is a great service. I love it.
Exactly. Yep. There's some good folks there. Good folks, and it's licensed, legitimate music for DJs who are wondering about that. They are one of the sources of that. So another question. 1999, you met your wife. Did you meet her at a show or did you meet her somewhere else? Because this is kind of one of those things that some DJs meet their significant other at a show. And
so my answer to that is yes and no. I was back in 99. There was a barbecue place that was doing bike nights every week. I think it was a Wednesday night, and one of her coworkers knew me, and they came out to the barbecue restaurant, and I met her unofficially then. And she was like, "You're a DJ? Wow, you're," and it was a bike night setting. So it wasn't where I was doing a whole lot of the actual quote unquote DJ stuff.
Right. Yep.
And so she was just like, and her coworker that night was like, "Look, we're booking you for our Christmas party." And I said, "Well, okay, but you and I need to talk." And she said, "No, we don't need to talk. You just need to bring a contract. And I was like, you realize I bring more because I didn't want to throw her a number at that time based on bike night
Yep.
versus doing a corporate party because it's drastically different.
Certainly.
So anyway, signed the contract, and on the night of the Christmas party, my wife was there. She came up to me and she asked me if I could dance. And I said, I own the company. I can do whatever I want to. He was like, oh, well, this personality was not at bike night. And so I did the party and everything like that. They did the after party in her room. And she was like, hey, if you want to come up, we've got 5 or 6 people, 8 people coming to my room and come and hang out and what have you. And I said, well, I got to tear down. It all depends on what we do. And so I went up, we talked. I left about 4 o'clock in the morning and came home. Everybody dispersed and all of that. And unfortunately, on our second date, we went on a date afterwards. I called 3 days later, and her dad was like, so he called you 3 days after? Well, this guy's pretty special. And then we went on our first date, and I actually came and picked her up like an old school, knocked on the door, introduced myself and all of that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, her father passed away on our second date.
Oh, no.
And then 6 months later, 3 months later, her coworker who signed the contract committed suicide. And I told her for our 6-month anniversary, like, I've been through the funeral. I've been through your dad being sick and that. I've now gone through your best friend and coworker committing suicide. Been through that. Can we change it up for 6 months? And that kind of is our June 15th was that day. And she had a colleague that had a baby on June the 15th. And so when we got married in 2002, then we picked June 15th because that's when all the good things started happening and what happened.
Better memories there, for sure.
Yep. And so we've been married since 2002. My son, who I mentioned earlier, Braden, is 19. He grew up in the business. I used to push him in a buggy and then bring my equipment in. My wife would pick him up at shows. He started running around and, can I plug this wire in, plug that wire in?
Yep.
But officially started DJing when he was 10 years old. And at 9 years old, he told my wife that one day he would own my company.
Sure.
And so that's the goal. I will probably turn it over to him where he's the face of the company when he's 25, 26. And then we have a daughter that's 14, freshman in high school. And she is dead set on being a veterinarian.
Nice. Very needed occupation for those of us who have pets and animals and live in a rural area. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So then we get into the 2000s, and you were pretty much at that time. Were you still doing some of the clubs then, or is it really the weddings were your main focus in those early 2000s?
So in 98, from 98 to 2000, I was building the private parties. I was no longer really in the club.
Okay.
And then, and so when I went full time, it was, working and pushing and doing corporate events and getting weddings and those type of things.
Sure.
I started, I had done some sports clubs. I did the skating ring for a year. That was all in my time of working with the other guy. But from 98 till now, I've never really been in the club. That was all when I was working with him.
Sure. So yeah, you've been basically then really focusing on the private events and such. Were you pretty much always a single operator? Did you dabble at some time with multiple systems or?
So even to this day, probably in 03, somewhere 03, 05, I met a gentleman that worked in TV, and he and I have become good friends. Columbia is an hour away from me, and he did a lot of work in Columbia.
Okay.
And in 2002, I also started the Carolina DJ Association with several DJs in the South Carolina area.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I met this gentleman, Rob, and probably in 08, maybe 07, I met another gentleman that worked for the radio called, his name is Joe Larson. Um, and we kind of formed a partnership, a relationship where we all three own our own companies.
Mm-hmm.
I do all of the marketing here in Rock Hill. Um, Rob does a little bit of marketing down in Columbia, not as much today as he did back then.
Sure.
And Joe was in a town north of Charlotte, and he did his marketing there. And so we just said, you know what, we are going to come together as single operators. If I book myself, then I would book either Rob or Joe on events that are my second, my third deal.
Sure.
And we
Mm-hmm.
we came up with a deal of a 25-75 split. With the contract, they would represent my company, and that kind of was a triangle. If Joe, it was supposed to be a triangle, but normally Joe and Rob, they just send it to me and I handle it through my company.
Okay.
But if Joe was to say, "Hey, can you represent my company?" I would have.
Yeah.
If Rob said, "Could you represent me?" I would have.
Mm-hmm.
But both of them just would send it to me and let me book it under Elite Entertainment.
Sure.
And we still have that partnership to this day.
Very nice. Yeah.
So that's, but now going with, depending on what it is, Braden now is in the mix, where he's doing events by himself as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that is really kind of neat when you get to that point where your son can or daughter, but when your child can go out and actually be performing at a high level these events.
Absolutely.
Because then as we can stay home and don't have to be out until 2 a.m.
As I told Dwayne when he said that he was retiring, it's in your blood.
Yep.
And I'm not, even when he takes over the company. And I've heard a mutual friend of ours, Bill, talk about he loves the MC deal and he wants to MC and then turn it over to the young DJ when it comes to the party for him to go home at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
I will probably die on a dance floor. I've said that all my life.
Sure.
That if once it is in you, then you can send a employee or a friend that works for you, whatever that relationship is. But when you start sending your child out there, then not to say you want to critique or anything of that sort for them, but it's in your blood and you actually enjoy watching what they do.
Oh, yeah.
We just got into, and I'm still to this day, the lights that we have now are plug and play and they do phenomenal. They've got programs. It wasn't back. The lights today that we have access to are not like they were back in the 90s.
Yo, for sure.
And he hounded me for a couple of months about, we need to look in getting DMX and I'd like to have DMX. And we ventured into getting the Wolf Mix DMX controller. And we've had it for about 4 or 5 months. And to see him light up programming and doing all of the different things with the different lights that we have brings great joy to me.
Yeah.
And so I will always be around because it's something that I developed and created.
Sure.
Number one, but also to see his success. And as a dad, I sit there and watch many a night watching him, but then also letting him know that the old man still has the ability to turn up a party and to create a vibe that he hasn't yet learned.
Sure.
And, with the music that we've played for years and years.
Yeah. Yeah. They just don't have that musical background of knowing which 80s song is going to work really, really well with this particular group type of thing.
Correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. So, Kevin, let's kind of. You mentioned, of course, you're working with your son. You said as a sophomore in high school is when you guys started to do some of the work with the school. Kind of, what kind of opened that door? What kind of made you or brought that into existence for you guys?
So he was on a football team in middle school, and he was on it because his buddies were on it.
Sure.
He was not. I am a very competitive person when it comes to sports.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's nobody that I'm going to race will beat me. If I get on the golf course, I'm playing you, and you won't beat me. Um, I'm very competitive.
Sure.
His competitiveness is in his little toenail, and it continues to grow out. He was never competitive. He found a way not to do the drills, but he would exercise and do all the calisthenics and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he played his eighth grade year. Well, he was on the team for his eighth grade year, a lot of the same in his ninth grade year. And his sophomore year, he started out on the football team, and he came to me and he said, I have something to talk to you about. And I kind of pushed him on his eighth grade year to join the golf team because leaving middle school, going to a high school here that's got over 2,000 students, 4 or 5 buildings, at least at a golf team, you've got 4 or 5 guys that you can build a relationship, a friendship with, and they can help you once you get to high school.
Sure.
And it'll give you a better step onto getting on the golf team and acclimated in the school. So I kind of pushed him to do that because he loves golf. And so he came to me his sophomore year and he said, I got something to talk to you about. And I said, okay, what's that? He said, he says, what if I told you I wanted to quit playing football? I said, the only thing that I require you to do is go talk to the coach face to face. You can't send him a text. You can't send him an email. You can't just simply quit and not show up.
Yep.
You've got to go handle your business like a man. He said, but I don't want him mad at me. I said, he's not going to be mad at you personally. He may be mad at you for losing a player in the situation, but not at you personally. And so through that, he went and talked to the head coach, and the head coach said, in our football games, when we come out of halftime, mainly for the third quarter, the band has played during halftime on the field. They take a break for third quarter. So there's no music whatsoever at our games during third quarter. First and second quarter, the band plays. Fourth quarter, the band plays. And you could implement some of that, playing in between that, because the band doesn't play when we are on offense. So you could play for first downs. You could play for a touchdown. You could play while fans are coming in before the game. You could play during halftime once the band is done. And then you have the entire third quarter to provide us and keep the energy going.
Right.
And so that's kind of really how it happened. And so we started working with the football team. They loved it. And so we would go to the stadium, sit up in the press box, plug into the house system. It is high school rules and probably even college rules that music through speakers are not allowed to be played when the ball is in motion.
Yep.
So we just played during timeouts. We played, during breaks, those type of things through third quarter.
Yeah.
One of his freshman coach at the time was the head basketball coach for the girls team.
Mm-hmm.
And he approached me and he said, he says, I'd love for you to come and DJ our games as well. And so that started that. It took another year and a half for the boys team. They chose to use a different DJ his sophomore year,
Mm-hmm.
Which was fine. And then last year was 2 years ago last year. Yeah, 2 years ago was the first year that we did the boys. So we would actually do the girls team. And there was some fans on the boys team, and the boys team was kind of upset that we wouldn't stay for theirs. But that's because the coach answered my question wrong, and he needed to come to me and say, I want you to be a part of my team.
Yep.
And until that happened, then we just played for the girls, and we left.
Sure.
The girls went on to win state championship that year. The following year, his junior year, the volleyball team asked to be a part. So we've done volleyball for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And where I started announcing your senior year. And how that all started was the announcer for the volleyball team quit his his junior year, and they had a fill-in. And so during his senior year, she didn't have an announcer. And because I'm also the president of the Booster Club, then I told her, I said, if it's okay with the AD and with everybody, I'll announce your games if you would like me to.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, yes, would love it. And so first game, I did intros, and during that match, as the games went on, I got more involved. And by the end of it, they were like, we want you at every game.
Sure.
And the boys volleyball team just had been starting that year as a brand new program. And so they were like, the head coach for the boys team was also the assistant coach for the girls team. And he says, and you need to do the boys as well. And so when we do for like the girls basketball team is the only team that, and now we do it for the boys, but we turn the overhead lights down. We do an NBA intro.
Nice.
For, with all of our flashing lights and all of that to create that experience. And that's what it's twofold for me. I want to create an experience for our youth, our high school players. And I encourage anybody to either go back to the high school that you were a part of or that is in your community and get involved with supporting somebody, because you never know how you can affect that young person.
Oh, for sure.
And so it's just not me being an announcer. I talk to the girls, I talk to the guys, just to be an outlet, just to say, here's what my life experiences are. You hear what your mom, you hear from your coach, but when you have somebody that is not directly connected to you, give you some advice, I think we can all lend that. And so I love it. It's a way for us to give back. I looked at it as a bigger picture, as far as when these students start getting married in 10 to 15 years, which will be when he takes over the company. Then, although there's been disagreements with the girls and him and the boys and all of that, because we have to play family-friendly music.
Yes.
We can't play, it's even more difficult, because if it's talking about drugs, or if it's talking about, although it's clean lyrics and we take the vulgarity out for corporate events, it's still the message that's in the song it can be swayed one way or the other.
Yep.
And so therefore we have to be cautious about that as well at the games. And some of the students are like, man, play today's music. And we're like, well, we can't, because it's got gunfire in it.
Exactly.
Or it's got
something. Yep. There's so
and
much.
So, but even through all of that, when they get ready to get married and they understand, when they walk away from that high school setting and they get into their world and they become young adults, they'll realize what we are doing now, they will understand later in life. And they'll go, man, I'm getting married. I've known you since high school.
Yep.
And if he gets 3% of the students that he touches at high school level, when they get ready to get married, then giving back to the high school and not taking any payment will do him well.
Sure.
In the future.
Would.
And that's kind of how that is set up. Plus, it's a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday, it's a Thursday, when most of us are sitting at home not doing and making any money. Saturdays are still our prime days. Fridays, Friday nights is football around here.
Yep.
Um, Rock Hill, believe it or not, is called Football Team USA. It is becoming Amateur Sports USA.
Hmm.
We have the uh, per capita, we have more football players in the NFL than any other town.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Wow.
the cornhole, if you've been hearing cornhole in the ACL, cornhole championship is done right here in Rock Hill. The ACL corporate office and the manufacture of all the boards and all of that is right here in Rock Hill. Um, believe it or not, in college now you can get a scholarship for playing cornhole now. And we've got a great team that just started this year, this year, and they're offering scholarships to kids to go play cornhole in college. And so that's all done right
Yep.
here in Rock Hill.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we are grateful to do that. We've been a part of a lot of the city events and the AAU basketball tournaments that come through town. And we've got a great relationship with the city of Rock Hill. And so we're able to connect and work with those people as well. And I do the announcing and he DJs. Just as a different avenue for him. He gets
Yep.
to watch the flow and the reaction and learn. Bill mentioned when we quote unquote say we read the room, we're just throwing something out there in hope. But in actuality, when you're a DJ in a sport, you're watching the flow. And depending on when the timeout is called or when the quarter is called and what is happening in the game, kind of dictates what song can be played or should be played for that.
Sure.
And it gels really well and it creates an atmosphere that it helps him when he's looking at, oh, this room's got 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds, I can go to this music. Or if it's got 20 and early 30-year-olds, then I can go to this music.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned, of course, that this is a giving back moment, and it's part of your advertising or marketing kind of a umbrella, for lack of a better way to describe it. Have you guys ever had the school maybe had some sponsors? Because I know our school has different people who have donated to the program, and when they are doing the introductions, they don't have a DJ and they don't have that, but they are announcing of the team, and then there's talk about, hey, tonight's game is partially sponsored by da-da-da-da. Is that part of the school system down there, or is it pretty much announcing a team and announcing the players, and they aren't doing anything with the community for sponsors like that?
Oh, no, we've got at the football games, we have a announcement for everything. We've got a sponsor for first downs. We got sponsors for okay. We have sponsors for touchdowns, for you name it. There are I bet you our announcer reads probably 20 different sponsors. And then we also have people that have done quarter ads. So
sure,
you get an ad in the first quarter, you get an ad in the first and second quarter, or first and third quarter, whatever. So he's reading nonstop sponsorships. When it comes to basketball, we have a digital board. And so anybody that sponsors the basketball programs or even the volleyball programs, their digital ad is on there all year long.
Sure.
Out in the baseball field, there are sponsors that hang their banners on the on the fence. Same way with softball, they hang it on the fence as well. We have a banner we set up in the mezzanine, which our gym has the bottom where the floor is and have stands, and then we have additional stands on one side, and that's called our mezzanine. And up on at half court, he sets up half court, and I have a 3x5 foot banner right there where he sets up at.
Okay.
It does two purposes. It not only advertises for us, but it also hides our cable.
Nice.
So we are, and because I'm the Booster Club president and I do so much and involved in the school with everything that I do, then if I asked the AD if I could have an announcement on the, at the football games, he would say absolutely.
Sure.
Or I could put my banner out on the football field, but I try to keep them separated.
Yeah.
And just because sometimes I need to talk to him from the president point, and other times he needs to talk to me from the announcers. So it's a great relationship with that we have. And that doing the high school stuff led us to doing the Winthrop University lady basketball team as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we do get paid for that.
Okay.
And so we're in the stands for that. It's a small amount, but still we do get paid for that. But once again, that's another marketing avenue in being involved in the community and another fan base that knows him.
Yeah, for sure. And I've known numerous friends who perform for professional teams, either a semi-pro or a full NBA type team. And it does lead to business. So it's definitely part of that marketing strategy. Kevin, we got just a few minutes left. Our time's almost up, but I wanted to, for someone who would be interested in getting involved with the school and doing some of the, playing, for those little spots during games and such, how would you recommend that they kind of start the process if they would like to do something like that with one of their local schools?
The first person, I think the best way to do it, first of all, is to start attending the games,
mm-hmm.
And getting the feel for what the environment is, see where you can assist and enhance the experience, and then go and talk to the coaches. Or if you want to go and talk to the AD, then go and talk to the AD. See who's at the games where you can utilize, that I know Charles, I know Barbara, I know Kathy, and I've done events for Kathy, I've done events for Barbara, what have you, when you go and talk to the coaches. Or, hey, I know their son,
mm-hmm.
I know this child. So then you're involved in the school. I think any school, you can't go in with the deal of you're doing it wrong, I can make it better.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say, I love what you're doing, and I would like to enhance that. And some of the wording and those type of things will open those doors for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes here in our area, it's led to another school that is wanting us to do events for them, and we've done some tournaments for them. And of course, we get paid like we normally do. Because that's not our school.
Yeah.
And so, but that's how I would start is to do that. That's led to me this year, throwing a lot of darts, big darts, and I'm a huge NASCAR fan. I'm a huge golf fan, and I'm actually waiting, to hear whether I'm going to be a part of a golf tournament that will be sitting up on the 18th tee, underneath the tent and doing a party atmosphere during a PGA tournament. And so this year, throwing the big darts and just saying, hey, here's how I can enhance. Here's what you have. I'm under the notion that I'm going to be told no a lot.
Right.
But one or two of those can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going after those things because they don't know unless if you let them know.
Right. Yeah.
So you just have to use the proper wording of not that you're doing anything wrong, but I can enhance, I can use my professionalism. I can talk to students. It's led us to doing, when the football team maxes out the weight room, we bring in our lighting and they turn the overhead lights off and make it completely dark for guys that are bench pressing, 500 pounds and squatting 600 pounds and what have you, and just creating a different environment. Once again, going back to that experience for a high school student,
Yeah.
and hearing everybody yelling, screaming their name when they're doing it to encourage them to reach their max.
Yeah. Very nice. Again, our time is out just about up. Kevin, if somebody would like to get in touch with you to ask some questions and get some advice, because you just a little piece you gave about how to start that conversation with not belittling what's going on and really enhance that. Great advice to start with, but they probably have a lot of questions. What's the best way for them to reach out and get in touch with you to kind of ask some questions about getting involved with schools like that?
I'm always open, whether it's corporate events. I do a lot of interactive games. I think that's where we have some great people that will talk to people and collaborate. But then we've got a majority of people that don't either.
Right.
And I think that knowledge is one thing that you can pass on that you'll never lose. And I live by that. They can reach me on my phone number. It's 803-417-9453. My website is being relaunched currently. But you can go to elitedjsc.com, let's say starting next week. You can find me on Facebook. My email is kevin@elitedjsc.com. I spend a lot of time on Facebook and Messenger, so I'm here. If you want to talk, chit chat, what have you. Dan Clavel is one that's in Washington State that calls me, and we talk on a regular basis and all that. We collaborate. Keith Allen, Rob Peters, we talk a lot. Paul Kaprowski down in Atlanta, Brett Reese, those type of guys that, and then I'm on Bill Smith happy hour every Monday night. And I've got a shout out to Bill. He and I've met each other once, but he's just a jewel, just like yourself, for our DJ community. And so I'm here to offer any assistance, help, in any way that I can.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, the best, I think, Facebook, you guys can find Kevin out there. You search for Kevin Porter, and you'll be able to find him out there on the big meta world. So, Kevin, thank you so much for being on tonight. It was great to get to know you a little bit and kind of talk about your story. And yeah, we'll have to come back and talk about an interactive games night. Have you on for one of the nights we're doing that? That'd be some fun stuff.
Absolutely. And if you want to talk about an exit strategy, I actually opened up a travel agency in 2019 as kind of my exit strategy. So a lot of us don't think about what are we going to do in 10 to 15 years. So if that's a topic that you want to touch base on, then would love to talk about that as well.
Excellent. Great stuff. Gang, we're going to be back in about 10 minutes with our second show tonight. Cubby and Dan and myself will be back and talking about some tips for getting ready for the 2025 wedding season. And then after that, it'll be the chill room tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Kevin, thanks again for being with me tonight.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure. Great to meet you, and thought we had a great show.
Thank you much.